Hey there, boys and girls. Today we're looking at this here Hotsy gas-powered pressure washer with heat even. This thing goes pretty awesome. And we got a couple features I wanted to point out. The Vanguard engine. This is a Daihatsu made engine. It's Briggs and Stratton, but Daihatsu makes it for them. So it's actually better than the crap they put out for consumer products. This is in a commercial industrial. You'll see here that it says commercial power, whereas a lot of stuff says commercial power and it's not. The IC engines for years, they're putting on all kinds of, tractors and such. They were trying to make it sound like it was a little more impressive than it really is. But anyway, Daihatsu makes this. It's a V-twin overhead valve, and those are under there. We're not going to take these apart until I need to, really. I'm thinking I'm going to be putting a few of these together where I just kind of point out some of the features, some of the pros, some of the cons. Had I been the OEM manufacturer of this particular machine, probably wouldn't have put this on there. It's a little bit light. Now, the guy I bought it from, he was having problems with it not having enough power. So he had it rebuilt. And when we got it, it didn't have much power either, and I couldn't really figure it out, but I knew I would at some point, but it just didn't have any balls, you know. So one thing that I noticed was that the muffler was getting really hot, glowing red at some point, and I'm like, okay, this thing's definitely wrong. Something's out of time or something. So anyway, this thing was under power because the guy who rebuilt the engine for them, I'm guessing it was probably a short block. I didn't run the numbers and figure it out. But whatever guy replaced the engine or did a short block on it, took me a little while to figure this out because it was so close. It wasn't even, it didn't even register in my brain that this was possible. The guy forgot the fucking flywheel key. So this thing was like just a couple degrees off, either advanced or retarded. Fuck if I know. But this thing was getting so hot it like melted the ceramic in the muffler. So that shit was rattling around. One of my other small engine buddies, he was saying, yeah, maybe that's blocking the exhaust. So he took this thing apart. You can see I cut the fucking muffler in half to remove the ceramic, and then I had to basically like stack of dimes tack weld this fucking thing back together because when I got a price on the muffler I was shocked. It was like 180 fucking dollars, and there was no way I was gonna pay that for this thing because I'm washing shit here and there, and I got a MIG welder. Fuck I want to buy that for? Well, I'll tell you why. Because that ceramic thing is a catalytic converter. It takes all the hydrocarbons that didn't get burnt in the engine and it kind of smokes them, cleans up the exhaust a little bit. Well, I didn't give a shit because I knew that's what it was for, but I've been doing this for a long time, so I figured, well, okay, I'll just let it go. This thing will make you cross-eyed after 15 fucking minutes of pressure washing if that exhaust is pointed anywhere near you. I've actually had guys working this thing outside, and I've pulled up to the job site and got out of the car and went, holy fuck. It's rough. So anyway, if you ever have any rattlings in that their muffler, you definitely want to replace it. Just spend the money, and it's all good. So under here, this is a belt-driven pump. It's called a Hawk. I don't know anything about this, except for it's made in Italy, which that's a good thing. I mean, Italians make some pretty good stuff. I know they had a little problem with leadership back in the 40s. A buddy of mine from Italy says Mussolini was an asshole. I'll give him that. But, whatever. They make good shit. BCS tillers come from Italy. I got a guy that helps me out here. He's big into Vespas and Lambrettas. I guess those are cool if you like scooters. I don't know. But I never worked on them. I got a no toys policy in my shop, and I have for 25 years. So we don't work on toys. Never have, never will. I got a motorcycle. It's a Honda, and I take it to the motorcycle shop. That's who fixes it. I don't want to learn how to work on that stuff. There's a million people that do, and let them do it. It's fine. I just tools, man. That's where it's at. Um, Especially now with the Chinese ATVs and go karts and mini bikes and all that stuff that people are buying at the store for their kid because it's like the $300 or something like that. Do you really want your kid on a $300 Chinese fucking go kart? Come on, man. That's not good. So anyway, yeah, we got a no toys policy. I used to play with toys, but then like one day when I was 10 or 12 or 13, some girl showed me her boobies, and I've never been really interested in toys ever since. So back to this thing. You got a temperature gauge here that doesn't seem to work much at all. Sometimes I got to turn it here and turn it here, turn it here to get the burner to go on and off. One thing that's really important about these is that you want to turn the burner off and cool off the coils in the burner before you shut the engine off. And if you're around hard water, especially, that's what we've got here in the Midwest. It's mostly, that'll calcify that stuff. People always say to protect the pump. Well, not the pump doesn't have hot water. The pump pumps hot water through these coils. When you turn the burner on, that's when the hot water comes out of the hose. Which, by the way, if you need hot water for your application, which I do, you can't go wrong. You got to pay the money. There's no cheap alternative except that I see now they got Harbor Freight and Northern Tool, and I'm sure every tool company's got some kind of an add-on feature where make your cheesy little $200 pressure washer a hot one. Nah, man, nah, that's bullshit. You know it. Just spend the money. This thing was probably 12 grand new. I don't know. I paid like 3,000 for it, especially because it was fucked up. Guy couldn't figure it out. If this thing was, if that flywheel key was in there and this thing was in time and it had all the balls that it has now, I probably would have had to pay 6 for it, 5 or 6, but whatever. So one other feature that I want to point out here, I've noticed over the years there's a lot of misdiagnosis on this voltage regulator. Now the way this thing works is these two yellow wires get AC voltage from the stator, which is underneath the flywheel. It's a little coil, looks a lot like an alternator. It is an alternator. Flywheel magnets on the inside rotate around it, and it forces electron flow through the copper. That AC voltage comes up to this regulator rectifier. So when you're testing anything electrical with these, let's say it's taking batteries out, let's say it needs to be charged up every time, the complaint is that it's not going. So whatever, could be a dead battery, could be all kinds of stuff, but don't replace anything until once you start to determine, okay, well, maybe it's not charging. Take this little connector out, that white one right there, and you want to set your multimeter to AC volts, and you want to probe both yellow connectors on the engine side. Start the engine, run it at full RPM. You're going to get 20 volts to 40 volts. There's a spec for every single different system, which there's 15 or 20. Briggs made a poster, which was kind of hard to understand, but basically you just have to look at the system and determine how the thing is set up. But it doesn't matter if it's 20 volts or if it's 40 volts, or if you're getting AC voltage out of the thing, the stator's working. If you're getting 0, obviously the stator's not working. They don't fail very often, but they do. So, and they're expensive too. Stator's probably the same price as the fucking muffler at $180. So you get your AC voltage coming into this here box, And then through the magic of, I don't know what kind of sorcery they got going on in there. I never cut one apart. It's all epoxied together. But it rectifies the voltage from AC to DC, and it drops it down to 12 volts. So there's something with, I don't know how that works. It doesn't matter, but it's an easy way to test. If you got AC voltage coming in, you got 12 volts coming out, and your battery's not charging. Well, then the connection between this here red wire and your battery, somewhere along the line. Now, I've aborted a bunch of those on tractors, so that's a little trick. It's kind of hackery, but you got to do what you got to do. If you've got a good 12 volts coming out of a regulator rectifier, yet it ain't making it to the battery, fuck all that wiring. Take a wire, put it from there to the positive terminal of the battery, or in this case, I could just go right here to the solenoid. So this to this, because that solenoid this is the battery cable, the positive battery cable. It's going to go back and feed the battery. So we'll do more on solenoids later. That's probably going to be a video all in itself. I could fire this thing up and show you how it pressure washes, but that'd be boring as all shit. So it works like a motherfucker. That's all I can say. So you know, if you got the money, spend it. Remember, grass is for cutting, not for smoking.